views and opinions expressed by callers, guests, and hosts do not necessarily reflect those of the Black Talk Radio Network and Black Talk Media Project. Black Talk Radio is new black media for the new millennium.
Dinar would have had serious consequences for the world financial system, but may also have empowered the people of Africa, something black activists say the US wants to avoid at all costs.
We're slicing cake. We're slicing cake. We're slicing cake.
Say the US wants to avoid at all costs.
We're slicing cake.
Say the US wants to avoid at all costs.
We're slicing.
Gaddafi didn't give up. In the months leading up to the military intervention, he called on African and Muslim nations to join together to create this new currency that would rival the dollar and euro. They would sell oil and other resources around the world only for gold dinars. It's an idea that would shift the economic balance of the world. Countries' wealth would depend on how much gold they have, not how many dollars they trade. And Libya has 144 tons of gold.
Good afternoon and welcome to Thando Radio Show on this March 17th, 2017. This is Scotty, of course, for those who know my voice. I'm sitting in for Brother Dave today, who is out taking care of some business, and so I'll be sitting in for him today, but I will be going over some of his news stories that he picked out for you to be shared with you today. We'll have Brother Bragg joining us here in just a bit as he will discuss the topic of standing your ground. As I stated, today is March the 17th, 2017, and one of the first stories that Brother Dave had posted to BTR community, and he was talking about March Madness, and he wasn't talking about the basketball tournament that's going on right now that has so many people, so many fans watching, fanatics watching basketball, the tournament, but he's talking about the madness that's going on in the world in terms of all of these military maneuvers and actions that are being taken. And I had to be honest with you, it's being instigated by the United States and this new CEO and his administration. So that is definitely the reoccurring theme in these news stories that I'm going to share with you over the next 20 minutes or so. Again, Brother Bragg will be joining us here shortly. Remember to support Black Talk Media Project if you think black media matters. One of the things that I noticed from some of the news stories I was reading yesterday in terms of the austerity measures that the Trump administration and the Republican-controlled Congress are going to introduce is cutting funding to public media. Now, it's not really going to hurt NPR or PBS or any of those big organizations like that. That is because a very small percentage of their funds, in order for them to conduct their media operations, come from the U.S. government. But it will hurt local community media operations, like you might have, what do they call that? Access TV is cable TV, underwriting, programming for the citizens who want to produce programs on your access TV stations. It'll also hurt community-based radio stations. And, like here where I live, they actually do have a radio station, a terrestrial radio station at the local community college that they operate. So places like that will be hurt in terms of this funding. Black Talk Media Project doesn't get any of its funding from any corporation or from any of these the government, because we don't apply for any kind of grants or loans, grants from the federal government, because when the Black Talk Media Project was established, it was established with the understanding that whoever pays the piper names the tune. And we don't want anyone naming the tune that we're going to be playing in our media operations. So we have been able to exist as a global media operation that has reached millions of people around the world since 2008. Almost all of our funding outside of the services that we charge clients for, but the bulk of our funding comes from you, the listener. And so if you want to see us to continue and also expand our reach, given that there is an attack on public media right now, please consider making a tax-deductible donation to the Black Talk Media Project. We are a nonprofit and we're based here in North Carolina. So let me go into some of the news that Brother Dave has picked out for you today. Let me give a quick look at the board. Yeah, we still got Brother Bragg on board, so he'll be joining us to talk about standing on your own ground when we get to that portion of the program. But the first article that Dave said posted in BTR community says the Syrian army says it shot down an Israeli jet. Now, late last night, I saw a story where the Israelis had sent some fighter planes and had dropped some bombs inside of Syria. And they have been doing this for a while. I'm not going to say they've been doing it a lot, but from time to time I would catch reports of this. This has not really been, their involvement has not been really reported on mainstream media. But now that the Syrian army, I read last night that they have fired two surface-to-air missiles, activated their missile defense network, and it fired on those Israeli jets. Now, the article I read last night claimed that there were no casualties and that the planes were not hit, but it seems the Syrian army begs to disagree. Syria's Army High Command said in a statement on Friday, Israeli jets breached Syrian airspace early in the morning and attacked a military target near Palmyra in what it described as an act of aggression that aided the Islamic State. It said its air defenses shot down one of the Israeli jets over what it called occupied ground and damaged another. And so, again, I really do understand that people who get their main source of information from the alphabet boys and their networks, I'm talking MSNBC, ABC, any kind of American based news agency, they're not going to tell you the truth. And the fact is that the so-called Islamic State or Al-Qaeda has been funded by America, if not directly through the CIA. But also, it is no secret, it shouldn't be a secret to anyone that Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, some of them other what they call Gulf states have been funding these so-called terrorists and what have you. So it is about to jump off. It's about to jump off. And like I had posted earlier today, before I even looked at Dave's stories, I asked the question, do you all realize that the United States is on the brink of war with Russia, China, North Korea, Syria, and Iran all at once? And I also said the American white male will have to go on the endangered species list if this pops off. What do I mean by that? Well, when I was in the military, I noticed that most of the people who occupied those combat roles were white males. And even though it's not being reported in these terms, but we know that the American people in this country classified as white under this system, their death rates exceeded their birth rates, meaning more of them are dying than are being born. And there's various reasons that they give in this report. But one of the glaring omissions from the report that I saw is these constant military actions. I hesitate to call them wars because technically they're not wars. If you go by the U.S. Constitution, there's supposed to be a declaration of war against a nation by Congress before the military can engage in a war. So technically these are not wars, but they are simply just I would say renegade military operations and what have you. We see the troops on the ground in Syria now. That is a illegal invasion. Usually they'll try to use for justification is the UN Security Council voted and authorized whatever bodies are participating, whether that be the U.S. military, whether that be NATO or whoever. They authorize them to take military action. Well, the United States is operating in Syria without that. And they've long been in Syria, with their military advisors and trainers. It's sort of similar how Vietnam started, how they got involved in Vietnam, first sending advisors and things of that nature. But Special Forces has long been operating in that country. So I'm just saying, a lot of people need to realize what's going on in this world in terms of these military actions and hostilities, and because it can affect you. It will affect all of us if this pops off. Okay, so next story that he posted for us, he says rocket siren sounds in Jordan Valley. An explosion was heard. Now I did not see this one, so let me see. Israel intercepts missile fired at its Air Force in Syria. Again, what is Israel doing in Syria? That's a sovereign nation. Okay, what are they doing in Syria? The Israeli military said it shot down one of numerous anti-aircraft missiles launched on Friday at its Air Force, which is operating in Syria, in a rare such incident that spilled over into neighboring countries. The Syrian army said it had shot down an Israeli jet during the operation. Israel denied this, saying that all its aircraft had returned unscathed. At no point was the safety of Israeli civilians or the Israeli Air Force aircraft compromised, Israeli military spokesman said. I mean, if it was shot down, I would expect them to lie. See, they need to project this image of invincibility to the rest of the world. And I think the rest of the world is starting to figure out that they are not invincible. Okay, so let me move on to the next story. Let me close out some of these things. Now, this is not a story that Dave posted, but it is related, so I want to share it with you. Let me see if I can find it right quick. There is the U.S. military is already being called out, and I can't pull it up. It's on Washington Post, and I just reached my limit. But based on what I remember reading, let me share what I posted. I did post an excerpt. I said, look at this crap right here. The entire world is getting tired of the United States. You know what? The United States said Friday that an airstrike targeted al-Qaeda militants in Syria, but residents charged that the powerful attack killed scores of civilians in a nearby mosque. A Pentagon spokesman, Navy Captain Jeff Davis, said the United States believes that the strike late Thursday killed dozens of members of the terrorist group. Separately, a U.S. official insisted the raid was based on verified human intelligence targeting al-Qaeda groups gathered to discuss future operations. But local activists in a monitoring group said the airstrike hit a mosque in western Aleppo countryside during a religious gathering, killing at least 46 people and trapping more under the rubble. So these civilian casualties, the United States government has basically been flippant about it. Remember, they even came up with a term to justify it. And, oh, this is just collateral damage. And that's how they refer to all these civilian deaths. It's just a collateral damage and what have you. Let's see the next story that Dave shared with you. Ohio lawmaker found with boy in motel and charged with prostitution. An Oklahoma Republican state senator who campaigned as a champion of family values was booked on felony prostitution charges on Thursday after police found him in a motel room with a teenage boy and drugs, court documents show. Ralph Shorty, 35, has been charged with 3 felony counts, including engaging in child prostitution. Court documents filed in Cleveland County show. Shorty, who has served since 2010, has not spoken to the media about the incident. According to court records, Shorty was booked at a local jail on Thursday afternoon. His bond has been set at $100,000, and local media said he was released about two after he surrendered, I guess 2 a.m. or whatever. He might have turned in himself. But I think that's a pretty low bond for somebody who you're accusing of engaging in child prostitution. $100,000, that's all? How do you explain that, Judge? Child prostitution is a very, very heinous crime. I don't know how old this boy was, 17-year-old male, I guess, but $100,000 bond for that, yeah, that just doesn't seem right to me. Next story. Let's see. Sirens blare as Japan, fearing North Korea, holds first missile drill. Now, I also saw earlier today, let me pull this up. Sirens blared and loudspeakers broadcast warnings in Japan's first civilian missile evacuation drill on Friday, conducted in a fishing town by officials worried about the threat of North Korean missiles. The exercise comes more than a week after North Korea launched 4 ballistic missiles into the sea off of Japan's northwest coast, with one rocket landing about 124 miles from the town of Oga. Friday's drill played out a scenario in which North Korea had fired a ballistic missile on the Japanese islands. Now, I have been reading that Tillerson, well, here's an article that they're showing in relation to this article. Secretary of State Tillerson delivers stark warning to North Korea of possible military response. I don't know what that response would be, but again, like I've heard Dave often talk about, this, we could be on the brink of nuclear war. Because I don't think, I actually believe that the people in North Korea that's in charge of North Korea would not hesitate to use them nuclear weapons that they have. And actually, as we see South Korea in political turmoil after one of its presidents was forced to resign due to corruption and bribes, the leading candidate over there actually wants to unify with North Korea. They want to, better relations and eventually come back together as one country. And of course, the United States doesn't want that, do they? They don't want that. So you better believe that the CIA is busy right now interfering in the election of the next South Korean government. They probably already sent one of their economic hitmen there to probably bribe some of these candidates and promise them personal wealth, if they just continue to be partners with the United States and pushing their agenda in that part of the world. So I'm telling you, man, things are serious out here. People can play games and try to ignore all this stuff all they want to, But it does appear that the world is on the brink of war right now. These people are not playing with the United States anymore. Let me see the next story. Tillerson is in South Korea in search of, let me close that out. Let me see. It's opening up. They must have changed the title on Dave. Tillerson delivers stark warning to North Korea of possible military response. Let me go ahead and read some of this. U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson on Friday issued the Trump administration's starkest warning yet to North Korea, saying that a military response would be on the table if Pyongyang, I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, but took action to threaten South Korea and U.S. forces. Speaking in Seoul after visiting the demilitarized zone dividing the Korean peninsula and some of the 28,000 troops stationed in South Korea, Tillerson said former President Barack Obama's policy of strategic patience towards North Korea nuclear missile programs was over. We are exploring a new range of security and diplomatic measures. All options are on the table. And, you know, this is kind of, if you ask me, this is kind of, and who is Rex Tillerson? A CEO, a former CEO of ExxonMobil. Don't forget what they did to them indigenous folks there in Nigeria in polluting their land and then murdering activists who were seeking a redress of their grievances and whatnot. So, you know, all these people are corrupt and evil. They believe in profits over people. Certainly we do not want for things to get to a military conflict, he said when asked about possible military action, but added if they elevate the threat of their weapons program to a level that we believe requires action, that option is on the table. Again, North Korea is a nuclear power now. They better be very careful in what they do. And I just don't think it's wise to be saying these sort of things in the public. But again, they always want to try to project white supremacy across the world. So, yeah. Let me move on to the next story. Let me see. Trump administration crafting big new arms sale to Taiwan, sources say. Now, this is an article that I just came across about an hour ago, but it is related. It says the Trump administration is crafting a big new arms package for Taiwan that would include advanced rocket systems and anti-ship missiles to defend against China, U.S. officials said, a deal sure to anger Beijing. The package is expected to be significantly larger than one that was shelved at the end of the Obama administration, the officials told Reuters on the eve of a visit to Beijing by U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson. The political desire is there to do a substantial sale. See, this is all about the military-industrial complex as well, one administration official said, adding that internal deliberations have begun on a deal that's much stronger and much more significant than the one that was not accepted by the Obama people. Now, I'll just stop right there and let me say this. Taiwan is part of China, okay? It has been colonized by Western forces, but it is historically a part of China. See, this is what was going on in the Gulf War, and I had done my research after I came back from that war zone, is that Saddam Hussein actually had a legitimate claim against Kuwait. Kuwait was a country that did not even exist prior to World War II. This is a bunch of white supremacists who, after World War II, carved up, you know, the map and created new borders and whatnot. And that so-called country called Kuwait was actually part of Iraq. And that whole thing was over the puppet regime of Kuwait doing what's known as slant drilling. That's where you are not drilling straight down into the ground, but you're drilling at an angle. And Saddam accused them of using slant drilling techniques to steal Iraqi oil. That was what that was really about. Forget that stuff, what they told you about spreading democracy and freedom, and all of that is a bunch of propaganda and garbage. So the same thing with Taiwan. This is a part of China, always has been. And they have just allowed these people to operate with some sort of autonomy, just like when they took back control of Hong Kong, which is in China, but had been a city ruled by Westerners. And they have taken back over Hong Kong, but they have still allowed them to operate some sort of with autonomy. Although I do remember years ago, there were a bunch of big protests and stuff when that first happened, but it seems now things have quieted down. So look, this is what I would call, what is the proper terminology? This is actually threatening China. You're threatening to give these people these advanced weapon systems and anti-ship systems and stuff like that. Now ask yourself, okay, let's think about it like this. How did the United States act when the Soviet Union was going to put missiles in Cuba? Remember the Cuban Missile Crisis? Okay, how did they act with another country putting advanced weapon systems right in their backyard? But they're doing the same thing here, proposing to do the same thing here with Taiwan. If you think China is going to stand by and allow this to go without a military response, then I don't know what to tell you. I think that the world is waking up and they are no longer in fear of the United States like they once were. I think that the military advantage that the United States once held has been equaled by these other countries combined, especially if you're talking about China and Russia, you know. So yeah, that I'm telling you, this is why I wrote earlier today that do you realize the U.S. is on the brink of war with Russia, China, North Korea, Syria, and Iran all at once? So lots of things to pay attention to because this can have an effect on you. Don't think that if they start running out of bodies that the United States will not re-implement a draft. Won't be no volunteer. No, we going to draft you. You going. And like somebody pointed out to me, they recently even raised the age to 42 years old that they can draft you into the military. And we also know that now they telling black females, black women, oh, yeah, join the military. You can wear your dreads. We're going to allow you to wear your dreads. This is why they opening up combat roles, which actually started during the Gulf War when I was in there, where you had female Cobra fighters. You know, these military attack helicopters and stuff that they were operating. But they recently announced that they're opening up these roles to women in combat roles, I should say, to women in the military. So, you know, don't think that if this pops off and they start running out of bodies, that they won't reinstitute a draft and snatch you up to make and turn you into cannon fodder out there. I don't think there'll be no running to Canada this time. I don't know. I can't say if that'll be an option that some people have or not. Man, let me close some of these websites. I got too many things going on. It's kind of like messing with my computer. But again, you're listening to Thando Radio Show. My name is Scotty Reed. I'm sitting in for Dave, who is away today. We'll be getting started here in just a bit with Brother Bragg. And the topic for today will be standing your own ground. Let me see, because there's a couple of other stories that he has. I'm just trying to unfreeze my computer right now, unfreeze this browser, and maybe we can pull up some more. Well, you know what? I'm not going to hold the program up on that. But if you want to check out the rest of these stories, go to btrcommunity.com. If you're not a member, you can join. I'm not sure if he made this viewable to the public or not, or if you have to be a member to view his stream. But it's only $24 a year. That's about $2 a month to become a member of this social media community that has been established for the Black Talk Radio listening audience. All right, let me try it now and get back to his profile. Believe that's it. China plans to build its first structure on disputed land in South China Sea near U.S. military assets is a story that he shared. Country-specific rules of origin in NAFTA unacceptable, says Mexico. Kind of talked about this last night with Max Partis. We did a video broadcast on our New Abolitionist radio page on Fedbook, and we were discussing the austerity measures. And I just made the point that, you know, if Donald Trump is going to talk about, if he's going to acknowledge that many jobs have been lost in this country overseas, then what sense do it make if he really care about the people that voted for him, a bunch of poor white people in rural areas like where I live? I tell you again, when I went to the polls that day, I had never seen so many white people turn out to the polls that day. I mean, and I've been voting since I was 18, and I'm 50 now. And these are the people who really turned out for him. And so if he really cared about them, it seems like he would bring the jobs back first, or create some jobs and get them so-called job creators to create some jobs first before they start cutting these people's food stamps and affordable housing, the voucher aid programs and things of that nature. Because I'm telling you, once these cuts come down, I'm going to have to be keeping a lookout, make sure don't none of these poor people be trying to come on the property and steal stuff. Because I do believe people will be forced into crimes of survival. And that's all part of the agenda to increase the prison slave population. Dave did share an article on this. Trump and Ryan budget will kill more Americans per year than all Muslim extremist attacks combined. I mean, they taking an axe to a lot of vital social programs in this country. Let me see. The last story Ross shared on Dave's timeline, Monsanto isn't feeding the world, it's killing our children. How could we have ever believed that it is a good idea to grow our food with poison, said Dr. Jane Goodall. 2 new reports published in recent weeks add to the already large and convincing body of evidence accumulated over more than a half a century that agricultural pesticides and other toxic chemicals are poisoning us. And the other day, somebody had posted this video of a quote-unquote trans person, and in the comment section, it was good to see people acknowledging that some of these people and these confused children, you don't know what's going on with them, and many of them could be victims of this chemical warfare. Dr. Tyrone Hayes, which I've interviewed, I believe he was also, I know he was also interviewed by Elliot Booker on Time for Awakening Radio, who was hired by these corporations to do a study on the effect of Roundup. That's one of the most popular chemicals that they use. And his work showed that it was turning male frogs into females and what have you, and making them, effeminate and what have you. So don't think that doesn't have the same effect on the human body. That's why, I just can't buy into people who display blind hatred for people cause they trans or they acting in a certain way when you don't know how they got that way or whatnot. They're still human beings with human rights, who have a right to self-determination, and who knows their determination could have been set for them in the womb when their mother took in them poisons into their bodies. So it's just very important to consider all factors when you're making your analysis and your assessment, especially when we're talking about human beings. All right, so that's it for the current events and news of the day. Let me go ahead and see if Brother Bragg is ready, and if he is ready to get started. Brother Bragg, we got you, bro.
Yes, sir. I'm here now. Peace, peace.
Peace. All right, Brother Bragg, the main topic for today is how to stand on your own ground. So if you want to take over, we'll just be taking our first station ID break at the top of the hour. But the floor is yours, Brother Bragg.
All righty. In regard to standing on your own, me and Dave always have these conversations. And when I say stand on my own, I'm a staunch believer that we are the indigenous people of America. We are America. We are not the migrants or immigrants. We are on our own homeland. We always been. Now, I'm going to run through some things because I told Dave I was just going to give you some of my notes and come off the top of my head because I don't have any plan, curriculum, or any sort. And I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. Anything that I say is for educational purposes only, and do your own research.
Brother Bragg, if I can interject for a minute, it's very hard for us to make out what you're saying because there's so much background noise going on. And if you can speak directly into the receiver, that'll make the broadcast quality a whole lot better because we want to hear what you have to say.
Now tell me, is that any better?
Yes, that's a lot better.
All right, now look, forgive me, man. I live around animals, man. So from time to time, you hear a German Shepherd behind me. It's a whole bunch of dogs downstairs. So dogs, if they hear something, they will bark. So just to let you know, precursor, I want to do one more thing before we get started. I just want to do this. I'm just going to go to this, to my little gong, which I do all the time, and this is it. All right, peace. Now we ready to vibe. All right, give any background noise. I'm just going to run through a few things through my notes because I do so much reading on a lot of things. I got a lot of notes. I'm just going to share some of my notes with you. And at any time, if anybody call in, just chime right in. We'll keep the discussion going because this is an open discussion for all of us. It's not my discussion. It's our discussion. All right, peace, and we shall begin. I'm going to read you this because this is at the foundation of everything we talk about every day. These are giant corporations that now control our world. Most people want to act like they don't understand, but this is what we deal with. Okay, here we go. In the first half of the 20th century, the Rockefeller Foundation and Carnegie Corporation undertook joint projects aimed at constructing an education system for Black Americans in the South, as well as for the Black Americans and Black Africans in several British colonies. In 1911, the Phelps-Stokes Fund was chartered with the purpose of managing the education of Negroes both in Africa and the United States. The conferences resulted in what became known as Tuskegee educational philosophy, which was decided upon by 1901. Thus, in 1901, the Fourth Conference on the issue established a Southern Education Board. The following year, John D. Rockefeller established the General Education Board, a precursor to the Rockefeller Foundation, which alleviated any financial concerns which the planners of Southern Negro education might have experienced. The Rockefeller philanthropy had exclusive influence on implementing the Tuskegee education philosophy, particularly through the Southern Education Board. Okay, this is just my notes. Now, the U.S. Constitution. Delegates describes limits and the powers of each of the three branches of government. They are legislative, executive, and judicial. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate, House of Representatives. Now, the reason I read that, because we always hear we say we're under the War Powers Act, okay? Check this out. March 27, 1861. The original people of North America have been under fascist rule via presidential executive order under the aforementioned emergency war powers. 12 U.S.C. 95 A.B., which the original people in their government is now legally established in me via the Mandatory Act of March 9, 1933, 48 Stat 1, amending Trading with the Enemy Act of October 6, 1917, H.R. 4960, Public Law Number 91, 4th December 6, 1865. The 14th Amendment, which is a private Roman Catholic ECCLESIASTICAL trust law known as St. Peter's Trust, constitute a constructed City Trust, a public charitable trust that was expressly designed to bring every corporation, franchise, artificial person called a citizen of the United States under the domain of man. All right. Some of this stuff I won't read because it might be too in-depth and I don't want to leave you hanging. I want you to get the point. Just walking you through the history to see all of these old laws are still on the book, and they always blow my mind because some of them, when I found out about them, I just couldn't believe these laws actually exist, but they do. Okay, check this out. Encyclopedia Word and Phrase Origins, the word blacklist originated with the list. The King of England, Charles II, made 58 judges in court office who sentenced his father, Charles I, to death. In 1649, when Charles II was restored to the throne in 1660, 13 of these renegades were put to death, and 25 sentenced to life in prison. And that's where you get that blacklist comes from. It's a death warrant. And listen, that's a good topic too, because that's a point of contention with me. I don't know if most people understand that all the royalty of Europe, King James and his people, were Jacobites or covenant keeper or Israelites. But they don't come up in history because King James comes up in history as a Caucasian man. But in fact, you do your research. King James is a melanated brother. And many of those people in the Byzantine Empire, Roman Empire, had black Caesars. I believe it's three black popes and 3 black Caesars. But I have to check on that, but it's somewhere in that range. I find all this stuff to be very interesting for this particular point. All of that back history, which is Sankofa, will bring us to now to understand what's going on. For instance, I don't know if most people know that Britain in the late 17, early 1800s went through India and devastated the people by taking over their markets and starving the people out. Millions of people. Pull that history up. You never hear about that history. You never hear about King Leopold. Most people don't really know who King Leopold is. He devastated the Congo with his nonsense. He came in with a Christian indoctrination program to be taught to the Congolese, and he devastated the population. I thought 10 million melanated people. And this kind of stuff.
I have a question, Brother Bragg.
Yes, sir.
While you on that point, before you jump ahead, in your studies, now I haven't verified this for myself, so I'm not putting this out there as a fact because you want to find at least several sources that's saying the same thing. And before I will accept, I'll just speak for myself before I accept something as a fact. But I have been seeing these brothers putting out these YouTube videos and talking about the quote unquote Moors helping King Leopold. Is that true in your studies? Did you come across any?
Well, look, this is what I'm trying to find out. Now I can tell you this. I can tell you in Great Men of Color Book 2 on page 305. You got the Moors coming with the Spanish and the Portuguese up into West Africa, and that's the devastation of the Benin Empire. Now, I got that information because I've been studying these boys for like 20, 25 years now, the Moors. They're kind of like a hush-hush subject. When you ask people in certain bookshops and whatnot about them or libraries, they don't want to talk about them. They act like they don't exist. But I'm pretty sure that most people, these people know who we are. Now, I'm not saying I'm a Moor because I don't take on any titles because these guys are complicit some kind of way, but you're going to have to understand this too. Now, listen to what I'm saying because this is crucial. When I be saying that, when Dave's talking about what we standing on, I'm telling you, he's standing in the middle of Egypt. This thing is bigger than all of us, and this is what we're not supposed to ever understand. That's why they want you far from Egypt as possible. Now, they want to give you Africa, but they want you to have nothing to do with Egypt. But you're standing in Egypt, this settlement, America. That's why you got pyramids all down the Mississippi River. You got pyramids in Illinois, Wisconsin, Ohio. They never tell you this. I stumbled on this stuff studying Lemuria and Mu. Because, see, these are ancient land masses that they want you to think that they're mythological, but it's not mythology. It's not mythology. These are real places that existed. I would even go as far to say that California Indians are the remnant of the Atlanteans. You feel me? And look, I was talking to one of my old relatives about 3 days ago. One of my relatives called some nonsense. People say things about you who really don't know you. But anyway, it ended up being fine because I ended up talking to one of my old relatives that I haven't talked to before. So I called her, and the conversation went like this. Like I've been checking our history. Our people from Covington. I heard Covington is a stronghold for the Cherokee Nation. She was like, yeah, our cousins are Cherokees. Now, see, this is how your people talk to you. Our cousins are Cherokee. Well, if your cousins was Cherokee, wouldn't that make you a Cherokee? Well, see, this is how your people are because I don't know what happened back in those days, but they scared brothers who they will not say that they Indian. My grandmother was 4'1". She wore a turban, like little wrap around her head. She never let her head be seen. But if you caught her in her house, she lived in a shotgun house with a 10 heater, kerosene. Louisiana.
You know what, Brother Bragg? You know what? To answer your question, why do people, I don't know if you recall, man, but whenever people, black people that's considered black under this racist system, whenever we start acknowledging our roots like that on this land to indigenous people, they be mocking you. They'll mock you and say, oh, you just don't want to be black. You know, they make jokes about it. Comedians make jokes
let them
about
do
it.
That. But look, that's how they do though. They shame you. This is consciousness here in America. They shame you. Look, remember this, and look, you got to think of it just like this. We are organized truth. We're disorganized truth dealing with an organized lie. This lie is not a little lie. This is a worldwide lie. This is a bigger. It's not no little white lie. This is a gigantic lie that encapsulates everything in reality. I'm talking about consciousness, time, space. And check this out, it's global too. That's how deep it is. That's why in being conscious, you got to be conscious of your other brothers because we all connected down to the earth. You know, I don't even want to start sounding all point of view because I believe things that are sacred. For instance, when you watch that mechanism, that tube in there, that idiot box, they deprogram you to desensitize you to the point that you think it's all right to go out and kill things. You think it's all right to act real rude to people that look like you, to disrespect elders, to have nobody that you respect. You got to respect something because it's an order. All of this stuff didn't just fall out. There's a master consciousness at work here. The creator is here. People don't have to believe that. And guess what? I tell people all the time, we the manifestation of the law. We the law in flesh. Now, we either carry the law out in action, task, or deeds, or we let all this chaos continue to go whirl around us. Let our children be taken over by other people and miseducate them. And see, that's the disconnect too. We have strangers educating our children, our most precious commodity. If there ever was an asset, that's your future. And we let our enemies educate our children. Just think of what I'm saying. We take the most precious thing and send it out there when it's at the most delicate. 5 or 6 years old, kids don't really want to leave mama nowhere. Should still be chasing mama around the house, but everything has been designed for you, just so you don't have a culture, because they want you to assimilate and be like them and forget who you are. Because see, me and Dave always talk about you've been mind wiped. They don't want you to know history. They won't teach you real facts. You don't self-educate, you will never be educated. And that education process goes even deeper than that. You need to be trying to find out everything all around you. I'm talking about whatever it is. In order for you to become the master, and there's some other things that I read. When you hear people refer to us like black, Negro, and colored, don't be getting indignant. People are telling you this because people are disrespecting us. Where's black land at? And see, when people ask you that, don't get upset. Where is black land at? Now, they used to have places called Kim, the land of the thing, but they don't exist anymore because they've been colonialized by conquerors. Most people don't know they've been conquered. That's why, Harry, you always hear people say, but people, they're not really conscious when they hear it. I could have freed 1,000 more slaves if they had knew they were slaves. But the construct is such that they don't need physical walls anymore to contain you. They contain your ideals and your dreams. And if they contain your ideals and your dreams, they have got you. If you can't think out of the box, can't see around things, see through things.
Or acknowledge the truth of things, because, Brother Bragg, what you're talking about, you just made a very strong point. I was actually talking to somebody earlier today. Now, this person identifies as a Moor. That's fine. Okay. I believe that people have the right to self-determination. That includes what they call themselves, you know. But at the same time, I'm telling you, he's talking about the reason that so many of us are suffering is because we don't recognize our sovereign status in law. And I said, wait a minute, though, bro. I said, they break their own laws. They don't care nothing about your status. I said, if you don't have a government backing you and a military to enforce your claims, then guess what? You colonized. You being oppressed just like everybody else. And the very fact that you have to go into court and argue your status to them shows who's really in charge. So I do think it's very important that we connect with our indigenous roots, but at the same time, we also have to recognize the truth of the matter is that we are oppressed people.
Well, look at it like this, Scotty. We are prisoners of war. We don't want to own it, but we are. Our ancestors were dominated, subjugated, they were moved off, they were mind wiped, and then they were taught, they were allowed to teach the children of those people whatever they wanted to teach them. So what did they decide to teach them? They decided to teach you that you were a slave. But let's dispel all that right now, the slavery stuff. First of all, that word slave, Slavic. Those first people who were enslaved by the Germans. Those Slavic people, that's the first slaves. Let's take care of that. Okay, let's take care of the next thing. You always hear this nigger. The first people that were called nigger, N-I-G-G-E-R, was Caucasian people because they were so gross, their behavior was so, that was the first niggers, N-I-G-G-A-R-S. Okay, now, let's step through that slavery thing. They were equal opportunity slavers here in America. Don't let them fool you. The only thing that changed anything up, after Baker's Rebellion, they changed the whole dynamic. That was the creation of the white race. Because at that particular point in time, they saw that all poor people in misery together were too powerful to be controlled. Those people rose up and devastated them, chased the governor out the state. It took 60 days before they could get order. They had to sit in a militia and a National Guard to restore order, put the governor back in his own state. They don't teach you this. This is Baker Rebellion. After that, we get what is Mr. Allen and the creation of the white race. So they gave these poor white trash, when they call them rednecks, check out what redneck really meant. Redneck meant that this dude, when he was in the field like you, his neck turned real red from getting burnt up from the sun. That sun was murdering him. Understand these terms that we hear, because everything is right before us, but they fool us because, I don't know why they fool us. If we pick up books, they can't fool us, and that's all I'm saying. Stop being fooled. You're the maker, the owner, the creator of everything around you. Everything that we use every day came from a mind, a melanated mind like yours and mine. But you've been taught to look down on yourself. Another thing, my young man, you stop attacking images of yourself. That's self-destructive. It's like you devouring yourself when you strike out at another melanated being that looks like you. Your mind is corrupt if you got that kind of mentality. And you need to check yourself. Remember this, it's only one sin, and ignorance is the only sin. this book I got here. It's called The Secret Destiny of America.
Before you do that, Brother Bragg, so let's go ahead and get in our station identification break. Let me see. I got myself muted. Brother Bragg, we're going to go into our station identification break and pick it up on the other side.
All right.
All right. You're listening to Thando Radio Show right here on the Black Talk Radio Network. Visit us online at blacktalkradionetwork.com. We'll be right back with Brother Bragg, Standing on Your Own Ground.
Black Talk Radio since 2008, providing new black media for the masses.
And welcome back to Thando Radio Show right here on the Black Talk Radio Network. And Brother Bragg is leading us in dialogue on standing your own ground. And Brother Bragg, I got to say, I really got to tell you, I appreciate that title. Why do I appreciate that title? Standing on your own ground. Because I just get sick to my stomach when I hear melanated people saying, this ain't our country, this ain't our land, this is their land. We need to go so-and-so place and that. I'm like, no, I'm not conceding nothing to anyone else. This is our land as much as anybody else's.
You the true American. You and I are the true. We match the soil. Remember this. They're pilgrims. They're outsiders. They're foreigners. That's what they are. If you go to the 1828 definition of American, it was the copper-colored people of America. Who are the copper-colored people? You only got one race of people that shine like copper, and they are here in America. That's you and I. From a sunshiny yellow to a copper hue to a shiny. I don't even know what you call it. Mahogany. Earth like clay. Black soil. That's us, baby. Children of the sun. Feel that. When them people, and I always be tripping. I used to get into it with cats in my job, jumping up, screaming American. No, brother, you a foreigner. I'm an American. I can take my people to 1862. Blew my mind because I never really paid attention to that. I always knew. My grandmother told me something when I was a young man. I got sent to Louisiana, way down northwest Louisiana, Natchitoches. And I had to stay there for a year because I was acting up. I was actually 15, 14, getting ready to be 15, about to get in trouble, all kind of trouble with the law and this and that because I was young and I was wild. I was in New York. And my mother and my uncle corralled me because I didn't want to go. First, my mother got me and she was like, look, you need to go to Louisiana and go to school. Because I had quit school because they weren't teaching me anything. I'm not even going to tell you what they were teaching in the school I went to. They was teaching CeeLo, card games, man, just crazy, just nonsense. People were selling drugs, they were doing all kind of things. Now, I'm talking about in the 70s, and it was wild. We had a police station built in the school, and I just quit because it was ridiculous. But the things that I learned through this, everything about us is a top secret. I mean, here in America, The American, native, aboriginal, copper color, melanated brother like you and me, we don't even know that that's us when they talk about us. Just like, for instance, today, I don't know if this is St. Patrick's Day today, or is it tomorrow or the next day, but remember this. St. Patrick killed 200,000 to 1 million Twa people for the Roman Catholic Church to take their land and institute a mechanism there. Do your research. Stop letting these people laugh at us. See, they laugh at us. These people that they put up in front of us as our heroes are the people who decimated our people. And we need to know these things. Because, see, that's the Roman, that's how cool the Romans are. And remember, America and Britain are the same country. Don't let them fool you. It's all cloaked under a veil. The same people are ruling. Once you peep game, you become illuminated. Don't be scared of words like Illuminati. All these words, these phrases, these things come from you. Whether it be astrology, the calendar, time and space. You never hear people, I only hear one brother mention Mahat other than myself. And that's Brother Davis and Sister Davis, that family. But I tell you, Mahat be on my heart. That's why some things I can't even express to you in a certain way because I don't have a word to say it in a decent fashion. And remember, words are spells, so watch what you say. What you say manifests. So some things are so horrific, you have to study and know it. Some things can't really be expressed because you can't get it in a proper tense, if you understand what I'm saying. And not to get any confusion, because everything is for educational purposes, period. Now, back to this book, The Secret Destiny, because I'm getting sidetracked. I'm thinking real fast and whatnot. I wanted Kevin Beacon. I want you to hear our founding fathers. This is going to be Beacon Secret Society is set up in America. Men bound by secret labor in the cause of world democracies decided that American colonies, they would plant the roots of a new way of life. Brotherhoods were established to meet secretly, and they quietly and industrially conditioned America to its destiny for leadership in a free world. Benjamin Franklin exercised an enormous psychological influence in colonial politics as appointed spokesman of unknown philosophers. He did not make laws, but his words became law. I'm just going to read a couple of paragraphs from this. And forgive me, this is how my mind works, people, so just bear with me. Colonialization of the Western Hemisphere was largely motivated in the desire to pillage the fabulous treasures of the New World. The explorers, led by the legends of hordes of gold and silver and palaces encrusted with jewels, formed expeditions and often financed from their own purses, but sometimes subsidized by the state. The Spanish were the most successful in their quest for riches. The majority of other adventurers profited little and suffered much, and it soon became apparent that only by sober colonization was any sizable reward to be gained in the New World. Now, remember, they're talking about colonizing you and I, and people that look like you and us. Because this is the America they came to. It was full of people that looked like you and me. Let's roll with this. For the promulgation of the Christian faith, the Western Hemisphere offered virgin territory. With the conquistadors came priests eager to convert pagan tribes and nations to the faith of the old world. A holy inquisition was set up in New Spain, and the Indians by the tens of thousands were tortured and killed for the good of their immortal souls. It was due to the zeal of the priests that the libraries of the Mayans were burned and their historical records destroyed. The minds of your brothers, too, they look like you and me. To this day, there stands in Merida, on the peninsula of Yucatan, the house of Conquistador Montejo. Over the door of this house are the heraldic arms of the Spanish adventurer, the shield and crest upheld by Spanish soldiers, standing on the heads of tortured and enslaved Mayan Indians. Reasonably accurate accounts of the natural advantages and the resources of the Americas were in time brought back by the explorers and the adventurers who had opened the new territories of the West, and only then did the European nations give serious consideration to actual development of their newly acquired colonial empires. The French, the Dutch, and the English entered upon programs of establishing permanent settlements along the Atlantic seaboard. The English program was under the direction of Sir Francis Bacon, and it was his genius that gave the purpose to the enterprise. They realized that here in the New World was the proper environment for the accomplishment of his great dream, the establishment of a philosophic empire. It must be remembered that Bacon not only played a lone hand, he was the head of a secret society including his membership, the most brilliant intellectuals of his day. All these men were bound together by common oath to labor in the cause of world democracy. Bacon's society of the unknown philosophers included men of high rank and broad influence. Together with Bacon, they devised the colonialization scheme. Now remember, they keep telling you, Bacon's society of unknown philosophers. So who is these unknown philosophers? I ain't gonna break it to you, but I know who they are. I want you to know, but I'm gonna give it to you one day, no doubt. I can't leave you hanging like that. That's too much. All right, that goes back to King James and his boys. Think of what I'm saying now. This is time and space, because King James is deep enough up in this, because there was a big conspiracy that went down. That's how the Moors are involved in this. But I believe the Moors got something. They got enslaved too. So they got themselves enslaved first of all, and then after they were enslaved, they brought their enslavers here and wreaked havoc on us here. I don't know if they did that knowingly. I haven't been able to discern that fact yet. I'm still digging that up. I'm going to keep working on it. I'm not indicting the Moors of anything, but I'm just saying I follow the facts. I'm going to give you some more books that you can back check. I won't do it now because I don't want to walk around and start making too much movement. But let me finish reading this. This is very interesting to me because I want you to know who founded this and what this is founded on and who you're dealing with. Once you know who you're dealing with, you start following these names in history. Blew my mind. Follow Benjamin Franklin. Follow Kevin Beacon. Kevin Beacon is a powerful stud. Man. But anyway, all these conspirators, these traitors, okay. Here you go. Word was passed about through secret channels that here in the Western Hemisphere was the promised land of the future. Here men of right purpose could build a new way of life, free from the religious intolerance and political despotism that held Europe in its clutches. The history books tell us that the colonists made a long and dangerous journey in small ships in order to find a place where they could worship God, each according to the dictates of his own conscience. There is, however, much more to the story than our historians have dared to suggest. Among the colonializers were some who belonged to the Order of the Quest, but it was not long before the religious strife broke out in the colonies. For men do not change their natures merely by changing their place of habitation. Much of the intolerance of the old world came over to plague the beginnings of the new civilization. It was not easy to preserve high principles and pioneering a country. Now remember this, they're talking all this high-minded stuff. The country that they're dealing with over there is full of disease and pestilence. People die every other year. They got plagues and all sorts of stuff going on. And remember, they under the king's law over there. We are under Roman law, which later became English law, or we under common law. Or they were under the law of equity at one time. Because remember, Romans and Britons, they're the same people now. Once they co-opt King James and his boys, we got the real Romans, a different Catholic Church, because the Catholic Church gets co-opted too. It goes from the hands of the melanated Catholics to the hands of the European Catholics. Most people don't know that. They don't know also that when they were enslaving those Irishmen, those Scotsmen and those Irishmen, those were melanated brothers too, that got sent over here from Ireland and Scotland and Welsh. It's pretty deep, man. You know what? I stumbled on all of this, started looking into things more seriously because I was made to read the Bible a couple of times by my mom. Because, man, the things that we're born into, I was born into Jesus Christ. So this is what your parents do. They do what they know. So my parents led, it's like 8 of us, 7 girls and me. They led 8 of us into Jesus Christ. So my whole life, I've been the only one who didn't follow Jesus Christ. Well, me and my other sister. But I had my own, I was hardcore though. They send me to church, I play hooky. They give me the money for the church money. Now, I wasn't no thief, but I went and got me some donuts. Because I'm like, why am I giving, God don't need no money from a kid. That's just my rationale as a kid. Then my friends who used to go to church with me, because I would try to get them to go with us too. Once everybody got a donut, though, got a little sugar in them, it was easy to get people to let it. Come on, we're going to go to the park for a few hours. We go to the park for 2 hours and go on back home. Stop by the church, get a thing, and keep on going. But that's just childish stuff. But that was who I was, you know what I'm saying?
But that's very important, though, Brother Bragg. It's not childish. And I was just talking about this the other day. children like that get labeled by society as troublemakers. Why you just can't go along with the program? Why you got to question everything? Why why so many questions? Just get with the program and do what you're told. You as a child had an independent mind, and you were operating on a logic that told you to question everything and not just accept something.
What you're born into, and people, that's another thing. People, when we give our children, make sure you give your children truth. Above all else, give them truth, because if you give them truth and morality, they'll do the right thing. I'm not saying that Jesus stuff, because believe it, I'm so far from that Jesus stuff, but I don't know if I would be the same person if I hadn't experienced that in my life, because by them making me read that Bible, that was not them, that was my mother. She demanded that I read that Bible a couple of times. And you know what I got out of that? I found out about, in Kings, I found out about Gehazi and Naaman. And I found out about leprosy. I found out a bunch of stuff. I found out. This is when I started having, when I started reading the Bible. When they got God telling people to go down and rape people and then kill everybody, then I'm like, in my rational now I'm like 22 years old, 23 years old, and I'm reading the Bible. Now this is my rationalization as I'm reading the Bible back then. Like, what God tells you to go down and kill people? Take all the women that haven't slept with, men, have not laid with men, and you can have their land after you devastate them like that. What kind of God is this? Now, understand me. I believe in the higher power. Because that mind is in everything. It's in the breath. That same breath that's in the bird is the same breath that's in you and I. Most people think their breath is less valuable than our breath, but it's all the same breath. If you take it, you have not the power to give it back. So that becomes sacred. Certain things are sacred. And that's what I was getting ready to touch on. If desensitize our young people to such an extent that they hate each other. They don't know what's sacred. I hear people all the time say things about my women. I say my women because all melanated women are my women. And they my women because as a melanated man, it's my job to protect my women. It's my job to protect my children. Now, all children used to be my children, but you can't approach all children anymore. They haven't been raised the same way. Some children feed for whatever reason. They have a reason in this world to be fearful. This is a fearful type world we're living in. Make no mistake about it. Prepare your children for this world. Don't send them out here like sheep to the slaughter. Let them know. The food is no good. Let me tell you this. The food is so no good, I started checking the food that I feed my dogs. I'm getting ready to flip the food that I feed my dogs because it causes a lot of problems. I'm not going to name the brands, but I'm feeding premium dog food. My dogs look good by all accounts, but I have an older female that I have for 14 years. I've been feeding this food. She's getting tumors on her. This food. And that goes for us too. Watch what you put in your pie hole. And that's not being disrespectful. What you put in your mouth determines your constitution and what you are and who you are. Don't let anybody tell you anything different, because if they tell you anything different, they're fooling you. If you eat GMOs, you no longer yourself. You have been reconstituted. If you don't believe me, look up GMOs. Listen, today was a breakthrough day for me. I've been on my better half for 5 years. And today, I got her to come on a fruit and berry diet with me. That's what I've been eating, fruits and berries for like almost 5 years now. I'll tell you about me. I used to be 286 pounds on a regular day. That's the food I was working. I thought I was eating good hamburger, steak, man. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. Food chart, the pyramid, grains, this, that, boop, bop, boop. Man, using half and half of my coffee. Oh, man, I don't use sugar. Boop, boop, boop. Everything that I just named. Half and half a key aspartame. God, dog. I started checking my food. Started really checking my food. Lost my appetite after I really checked my food real tough. Now, I never did drink faucet water. I always bought my water. An old lady called me when I was a young man when I used to be a straight hoopster. She's like, Mr. Bragg, you play that basketball, you and them young men, you drink all that beer, you should keep you some water with you at all times. Start buying you a gallon and keep. And guess what? This is about 35 years later, because that was in like 79, as she told me, or 8. I've been carrying a gallon of water since then. I don't drink no water from the faucets. She was like, you don't know what these people put these stuff. Now, when she was telling me that I was young, I didn't know what she was saying. I used to always ask for water. She used to, Brad, don't drink this water out of these pipes. I keep my gallon. I got water in my car right now. That's how I roll. So the hardest quest for me here is food. Because when you start going looking at food, most places don't carry organics. You gotta really go outside yourself to get clean food. Is what I call it. I'm so bad. I'm even trying to cut out meat, and this is something, because you know what? Another thing that I was just checking out about being sacred. You know, they made us savages because in our natural environment we didn't eat all this meat. We grew up here in this country. This is where all the exports came from. They said all manner of corn. That corn was a main crop. Tobacco is from you brothers here. You melanated brothers here. You the tobacco. You brothers here in America, you were the marijuana crops. Always use marijuana. It was part of your culture, your heritage. So when you hear people kicking, and notice what they did. Everything that you used, they criminalized it. Not even talking about the 13th Amendment. That's a whole other story. Slavery never ended, ever, ever, ever. It's the biggest charade that was ever pulled on a supposed to be a democracy. But it started as a republic. So when did they change it? Who had the right to change it from a republic to a democracy? That's another question. That's a whole other conversation in itself. We know who changed it. The people with the money change it. They get to change the game. They change the rules at will. But all I'm saying for us, we don't care how they change the rules. As long as we study, we'll modulate. We always going to elevate. We always going to move to a whole new level. If you go back to the old world and study us all over this world, you're going to find out we were the people they call God's people, wherever they found us. Because we were faithful people. And back to my heart. That my heart on the land was really, it's a code that's on your heart. How you treat other people, how you treat yourself. Guard your ideals, because your ideals manifest. So if you have a bad ideal, you kill that ideal, kill it in 3 seconds. It's fast. If it's negative, kill it as fast as it was calculated. Kill it. And regress. I mean, regroup. Because you can definitely do it. Now, back to the diet. Now, I was on 5 different medications for diabetes, high blood pressure. I was taking insulin shots every day. And believe this, I hated this stuff. This is, man, this, and the cat, he was a Jewish doctor I had. He told me face to face, yeah, if you come off this medicine, you're going to be like my other patients. You'll be soon putting you on the ground. I was like, is that right? He didn't know I was going to go behind him and start studying about medicine. I started studying about the medicine. Now, let me also say at the time that I went to see this doctor, I went to see him because my blood cholesterol was so high, I couldn't really see. I could only see color flashes. So it was something definitely wrong. So I had to actually work with it for a minute until I got myself under control. But when I was hearing them telling me that I was going to be on medication for the rest of my life, and I'm going to die like this, and, you know, there's nothing that you can do about that weight. And he even told me, well, stop eating red meats and eat pork. Now, I never eat pork. He talking about pork is better than chicken pork. Man, I wouldn't put that filth in my mouth. Not knocking anybody. If you want to eat that beast, you eat that beast. More power to you. But I'll tell you about that beast. On each one of his front feet, under his feet, he got little spore holes where all the impurities run out of his feet. If you got rattlesnakes, you take that salve, and, well, if you got a salve with piglets, it's even better. You take that salve with piglets and put it in there, and that salve and them piglets will eat them, work them snakes out, and they will eat every last one. This stuff I learned in Louisiana. Because this is stuff that changed my life, changed who I am and how I perceived it. Because I got down here, now I came out of New York City, so everything there was fast and ha-ha, yeah, boo-boo, yeah, nonsense. Got down south, nice and slow. People was real people who took time with you to talk to you. Met an old man named Ultra Turner. He would take like 5 or 6 of us out to his pasture. And we would go out here, a city fella, me and my cousin and my other cousin, out here chasing cows. And you know, city fella, you know, we scared as heck of a cow, but we was just so happy to be included and that we could go. But we end up learning so much, much more. Actually experienced with all of my different people down here. And I remember my uncle, I was seeing a girl down there. You know what I'm saying? I was, you know, young dude, you know. My uncle's like, well, you disappeared off into the evening. I used to get on a bike. I used to ride 5 miles. It was fine. Queens. But my uncle's like, where you going? Uncle, I'm riding out there to the brickyard to see you. The brickyard? You ain't a brick. Everybody in the brickyard is your family. They're your cousins out there. You stay out there in the brickyard with them girls. Matter of fact, if you want to see any girls, you let me know where you're going before you go. Most of the people in these towns around here are related to us. I'm like, what? I didn't know I had this kind of thing. So that was a shock. Now, let's cut the chase. Let's flip to the future. I haven't really talked to any of my old relatives, about anything because, I don't know why. I actually miss great opportunities. This time waits for no man. And every time we lose these older people, it's like a library. It's vast information disappears from this planet, from this dimension forever, never to be recovered. You can't even ask a question. So we got to talk to our people while we're here. We got to write our own stories down. We got to do the legwork. Like I'm telling you about these pyramids, I'm going to tell y'all a couple of sites. 432 Drop Squad. Pull that site up. www.realhistory.com. Let us find the truth.com. These brothers here, they don't play, they're hard hit. I research, a lot of times, I temper what I research against what these brothers research. They be so on it. Now, my other thing, unity, brothers and sisters, people, melanated people. Man, now, I don't know what people think, but where I come from, in Brooklyn, stragglers get the business. You come in as a clique. You come in, you roll. You come in with your boys. We used to call them road dogs. I don't know what they call it now. Me and my road dogs would come in. We come in together. You know what I'm saying? We gonna have to click up like that. You have to put all these differences aside. Religion, all these different religions. It don't matter. They don't care about none of that. Only thing they care about. This country was based on slavery. When you start doing your real research, the first Irish that came here, they were look like you and me. They were Jacobians. And the rest of the Irish who came, they were converts. Remember this: these people, once they knock you off, they take your identity. Just like you got these Mongoloid people jumping around talking about they're American Indians. No, they're not American Indians. You are the America. You are the indigenous. If you just go to indigenous, it means dark-skinned people like Indy the Ink. It's all in front of us. Just pay attention. Stop letting people tell you who you are. You tell them who you are. You don't let them tell you who you are. Because they'll label you dead under the law, which they have done. So it's very important for all of us to understand. When people telling you about this blackness, see me, my nephew's a Moor. I'm not a Moor. I don't want no title. I don't want to be a Hebrew. I don't want to be no Israelite. I don't want to be nothing. I want to be what I was born, my name that I was given by my people. And I had arguments with guys. Why don't you change? You know all this stuff. Why don't you change your name? Nah, my daddy gave me this name. Somebody gave my daddy his name, which is the same name as mine. So this name, when I find out what this name means, this name is Indian and Egyptian. Cordell Bragg Jr. It means brave cloud. It sounds corny, but that blew my wig back. That's when I started really digging into, who we were here in America. I had my old aunt, this is my grandmother's people. I had her tell me, in our family, this dude, Walter Pledger, she was talking about him specifically. He said, throughout my family, they went through our family and classified some as mulatto, some as Negro, had us all messed up. The whole family classified as different classifications, but they all one people. He said, oh yeah, and that's my relative. I'm saying, our cousins was Cherokees. That's my same relative. Now that's my daddy's people. My mother's people, that's another Indian nation down in northwest Louisiana. Powhatan, Shady Grove, all these little places, Brickyard. They used to make bricks there. Another thing that blew me away about that time, they had a lot of free black people. And check this out. If you do your research, you're going to find that melanated people in America during the course of slavery owned more slaves than white people did. They made a law to stop it, to make it illegal. Because, remember, these people came to your home. Now, some people try to assimilate, which is a mistake. See, That's how they steal your culture. You assimilate, and they use your culture against you. They'll take on your identity. Go to Britain. Britain is a prime example. Man, I'm studying Britain. My wig gets blown back when I find out all ancient Britons, they were Carthaginians. Carthaginians, now what are they? Carthaginians was West Africa. They came up out of, all these people came out of Africa. So the Europe that you know initially was all people by melanated people. These Europeans, I'm still trying to figure out, other than the foot or the base of the Caucasus Mountain, or other than in 711 when Tariq came into Spain and then they ran the Saxons up into the mountains, where did these people come from? They can't tell you where they come from, but they try to dictate your history to you and me. But follow it. Start paying attention. National Geographic, they all phony. Smithsonian, they all phony. My books, my book work, my scholarship has told me, these boys, look, now I never kicked a scholar. John Henry Clark, Chancellor Williams, Sertima, man, and many, many, many more. I stand in all these brothers. But by the same token, why are we sleeping on who is the original man here in the continent of North America? Pull up Iroquois Federation. Pull up 1776 and see from 1776 forward who America was at war with. Then start going to the Library of Congress and see who those indigenous people were. I'm going to flip your wig back. I'm going to make you learn something today. This is the stuff that always runs through my mind. I used to talk to people about this stuff. They look at me like I'm crazy, but I'm far from crazy. My research keeps me popping. I'm like a hound dog on a trail. Back to this book. And I hope I'm not just rambling. I hope I'm making some sense. I want to go back to Kevin Bacon and his boys, because, man, that's really very interesting.
Yeah, Brother Braggs, I follow you, man, because I know of what you're talking about because of how much I read history, but we do need to take our last station identification break, and we also got a call on the board for you, and we'll get to that call on the other side. You're listening to Thando Radio Show right here on the Black Talk Radio Network. Tune in Monday through Fridays at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Black Talk Radio Network is made possible in part with help from the Black Talk Media Project, a North Carolina-based nonprofit engaged in the production and distribution of independent digital black media. Find out more by going to blacktalkradionetwork.com or blacktalkmediaproject.org and look for the menu tab, Crowdfunding Black Media. Black Talk Media Project, helping to provide you with new black media for the new millennium. You are tuned in to Black Talk Radio, the new black media for the new millennium.
And welcome back to Thando Radio Show. We're being led in discussion by Brother Braggs. The topic is standing on your own ground. I got a quick riddle for you, Brother Bragg. Why do people on this landmass right now speak English and not Spanish?
Well, mainly because of the Roman Catholic Church, basically. English is a language of spells. English, High German, Low German, some parts of Latin, not even a real language, but it's a language of spells. That's why we speak it.
It's a bastardized language, is how I've heard it described. This is what I believe from my study of North Carolina, studying this land mass that was left to us by our ancestors. I think it was the 1500s. It was prior to the English landing in Virginia, so-called Jamestown landing or whatever that was. The Spanish sent an expedition that landed on the coast of North Carolina, and they pushed about 200 miles inland and built a fort. They got wiped out and killed by the indigenous people here who didn't want them here. And it is my belief that is why we don't speak Spanish and we're speaking English, because of the English colonizers were able to establish a foothold.
Remember, when you saying English colonizer, you really saying Britain now, because the English and the Britain is the same thing.
Right. When I say English, I'm meaning England. I'm meaning yeah.
See, that's what I'm saying. They hide behind names. Don't let them fool you with the names. Pull the veil off of them. America and England, Britain are the same people. That's their ancestors.
Right.
Europeans. And we lose sight of that. When you hear these guys yelling American, just think what we just said now. That's where they come from. This is where you come from. So they done co-opted your land, got you thinking, looking way over in Africa. If you was from Africa, the delegation for Africa would have came and got your melanated butt already. But since you're not from Africa, they have sent nobody to rescue you because you are a prisoner in your own country.
We got
prisoner of war.
We got a call from Brother Davis. Brother Davis, thanks for calling in. Go ahead with your question or comment. Brother Davis, you there?
Hey, yeah, brother. It's always good to hear the voice of a friend.
Peace, brother.
Back up, Brother Bragg.
Peace.
Hey, man, you knocked it out the park with the content and history that you're literally giving people. The reality is, if they take any of these nuggets that you're laying on them and do some of their own research, they will expand the horizon on our place in American history immensely. I do want to add, though, brother, there's a book out by Dr. David M. Hotep called The First Americans Were African, which literally legitimizes everything you're saying, and it gives you a physical documentation of how the migration patterns were taken upon those navigators who were great Africans, who navigated to South America, North America, Europe, India, Asia. We were the first. And in all of these places, we have left a definite fingerprint that Europeans have gone out their way to negotiate with other countries to keep in the shadows of those countries. And I'm talking about there are black Chinese, there are black Russians. See, and a lot of people, they don't know this because they haven't taken the time to operate in the key of knowledge that you're offering them right now. And you keep telling them, all you got to do is read, and you'll find all of this stuff is out there, man. I just wanted to get great show, brother. I'm going to get back in the room and listen, but I definitely wanted to add to the fact that this is some nuggets that literally are being laid on your lap, that if you take a few of them, you can grow immensely. I appreciate you, brothers.
Peace. I just want to drop this one more time. These sites that I gave you, these sites are really precious jewels. 432thedrop.com. Let us find the truth.com. www.realhistory.com. Real History will blow your wig back. They got pictures. Go to the American Indian, go to the Cherokee. I'm not sure if the map there, because there's a map when the Atlantic Ocean was called the Ethiopian Ocean. I've seen it with my own eyes. That has something to do with the Paris Regis, all that kind of stuff. These navigators, these Moorish navigators. Now remember this. These Europeans were landlocked. They didn't have the ability to navigate. They were landlocked. They didn't. Also, check this out. People never talk about this. When they be talking about all these slave ships, what trees did they use to build all these slave ships? See, they had to come over here and get the trees to build ships, a bunch of ships, or go to Africa. They didn't have those resources. They squandered them. Just like now, here in the continent of North America, just like in the continent of Africa. I'm going to tell you this. I tell this to Dave all the time. When they talk about Upper and Lower Egypt, they talk about Africa. When they talk about Lower Egypt, they talk about here in the Americas. All of these people are the same people. Egyptians, are going to be your Indians, going to be your Mayans, going to be your Olmec, going to go down to the XY Sang dynasty, going to go all the way to India, to the Nagas. Wherever we were, this knowledge was passed. We brought people from darkness to light, literally. People groveling in caves who didn't have understanding, brought them out, cleaned them off, dusted them off, and gave them civilization. That's wherever they were. When they came and grabbed people that looked like you and I, they didn't just grab people. They grabbed scientists, mathematicians, astronomers. They grabbed the greatest minds that walked the planet of the earth. That's when man was revered as gods. Those were your brothers, your ancestors, my ancestors. They talk about the God-headed dog. He's my favorite god. Oh, I'm sorry, also trough. But that's a whole nother conversation. Because see, now I'm going into my heart. What's on your heart? How you treat your fellow man. How you treat your fellow animal. How you treat a greater grass. Because it's all the same. That grass, those trees, we breathe in oxygen, put out carbon dioxide. They take the carbon dioxide, recycle it, give it back as good, clean air for us. We got people that's flying over our heads, dropping all kind of chemicals. What goes up must come down. Most people don't think of it like that. In the underground water tables, food that you grow is touched. Everything is touched. They touching us where they shouldn't touch us.
Brother Braggs, we got another call. Brother Ross would like to chime in. Welcome to Thando, Brother Ross. Go ahead and share.
Peace and love to you, Brother Scotty,
Peace,
Brother
peace.
Bragg, my man. What's good?
Peace.
You are straight killing it today. You are killing it. And I just want to add to the discussion. You're absolutely right. The so-called Atlantic was originally known as the Ethiopian Ocean, and that's because white people were standing there, like you said, landlocked, watching black people go back and forth from Africa to the Americas for well over 1,000 years. They were watching that, and they couldn't get in on the action. And just to give out more text, you can go to look up Leo Wiener. He has a 3-volume set, The African Discovery of America. Dr. Van Sertima, of course, it came before Columbus. He also has another book called African Presence in Early America Revisited, The Golden Age of the Moors, African Presence in Early Europe, African Presence in Early Asia, and this gives you all the history of black people all over the world. It's incredible.
Williams in there, too. Chancellor in there, too. He got to be in there.
Yeah, Dr. Chancellor Williams, The Destruction of Black Civilization. Yes, that is one of the best books. I think if black people want to understand the fact that we had a Pan-African understanding where we understood that we were the same people, and it was the coming of white people that destroyed that whole consciousness, his book details it scientifically, and sadly, he lost his vision. He was about to do a 3-volume set in addition to that book, but he went blind and he died shortly thereafter, so he was unable to complete the writing of those texts. I wish somebody had access to his research to maybe bring that information forward, because the work that he did was incredible in reference to our history and what really has happened to us. Man, you dropped so much stuff. It's unbelievable.
What I wanted them to know, who founded this country. See, it's my main point. Know who these founding fathers were. See, they have us emulating, looking up to, elevating people that don't deserve to be elevated in our lifetimes, not by us, because they were the killer of our ancestors. This is all I'm saying. Know your history.
You're absolutely right.
So today is St. Patrick's Day, or is it tomorrow or the next day? Check this out. We got my brothers who look like me out here celebrating the death of us. Know what you celebrate. That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to ostracize nobody that look like me. I didn't always know the things that I know, so I had to start somewhere. But once I know better, I do better. Once we know better, we should do better. I look down on no man.
Let me drop something about St. Patrick, because I discussed this when I did a program on the African presence in early America a few weeks ago for Black History Month. And a brother called in and discussed St. Patrick, and the story of St. Patrick deals with the fact that they say that he was the one that drove all the snakes out of Ireland. If you go to Ireland, there are no snakes there. Those were the Twa people. And the reason they called them snakes, and they called them black snakes to be specific, because they were black people and because they worshiped the Uraeus, the cobra, also known as Buto. And that was where they got the name, calling them snakes. When you're looking at the leprechaun that the Irish people use in the Notre Dame logo, that is an homage to the Twa people. There are no short white people on earth. The only short people that are genetically that way are black people, the Twa, the San, the Hutu, the Khoikhoi. These were the short diminutive blacks that populated the whole planet. And when you start reading Sir Albert Churchward, Signs and Symbols of Primordial Man, and there's another great book by Dr. Richard King, The African Origin of Biological Psychiatry, and Melanin, the Key to Freedom, they discuss the fact that the so-called Homo erectus were the Twa people, and they were dated to 2 million years ago. So when you hear them say that modern humans came into existence 200,000 years ago, they're lying. We've been here for a minimum of 2 million years. The evidence is there. The documents are evidence. So Homo erectus is modern man. They were just short black people. And the tall variation of black people, which is the ones they're referring to when they're talking about the bones of ancient man found in Ethiopia, Tanzania, Uganda, all of these places, they came into existence later. So you're talking about maybe 400 to 200,000 years ago was when that genetic shift came to create these taller black people. But all the black people before that were short black people. And you can research that for yourself. So they're not telling you the whole fact. Dr. Ben, when he turned the spades over in the soil in Egypt, he found that the signs, the symbols of the Ankh, the crook, the flail, all the major sacred symbols of Egypt, he dated them back to over 400,000 years, 400,000 BC. And then I actually discussed the fact that these two white scientists from the Ukraine dated the Sphinx to 800,000 BC, based on scientific geological research and a multidisciplinary approach to studying the Giza Plateau and comparing the Giza Plateau with other places around the world that came from the same time period. And they said unequivocally the entire Giza Plateau is actually 800,000 BC. And if you study, there's another set of documentaries by a man named John Anthony West called Magical Egypt. You can find them all on YouTube. There's 8 parts in that series. And he also discusses the fact that the age of a lot of these temples in Egypt are a lot older than what we're being told. So everything Brother Bragg is saying is completely correct, and there's so much information out there, it's mind-blowing. And once you get into this study, and like he said, if you were really diligent, it's going to blow you away. Thank you, my brother, for all that you do. I love your passion because your passion comes from a great place, and it's backed up by facts, and I appreciate that. One love.
Peace, peace. Look, I want to jump on the back of that, too. Look, when you do your research also, you're going to find out that here in the continent of North America, you're going to find that this landmass may be much older than Africa. You're going to find, even though Africa is the only landmass that's connected to the ground. Now, these things that you should know. People say the continent split into 5 pieces. I believe it's split into 13 pieces. When Pangenera, you had Lemuria, you had Mu, and then you had Atlantis. These are ancient civilizations. They don't want to talk about these civilizations. These civilizations predate the Phoenicians. These are the older people of the, oh my goodness, Assyrians, all these people are much older. These are the old world people, the old gods. See, they don't want to talk about that. I'm telling you that you walking around in Egypt right now, pull up the Grand Canyon, pull up Las Vegas, temples, pull up Isis temple in the Grand Canyon, you're going to find the Ankh, all of that stuff is right on this landmass. You're going to find out we got more pyramids on this landmass than they got across, I'm talking about the North and South America. This landmass in Mexico. When you hear these people talking about building a wall for Mexico, Mexico used to own the American landmass. They had a dispute with America where they let America walk away with a few states. So just listen to the stuff that they're throwing around.
Brother Bragg,
I want to.
Let me ask you something about that, because 2 days ago I was talking to somebody from Mexico, and I was talking to some indigenous people, and they were saying the article was about these certain western states in Texas being part of Mexico and whatnot. But I said
that's right.
But wait a minute though, Brother Braggs. You know what I said? I said in the Mexican government was who? A bunch of Spanish speaking Europeans, and who did they steal the land from? They stole it from indigenous people.
From you and me.
Exactly. So I'm like, it don't make no sense for us to be saying, well, Mexico actually did own these pieces of land and all, and like we taking sides or something. When Mexico, if you look at them people, the people that's in the government that's in power in Mexico, they look Caucasian. They ain't melanated.
Remember this, Scotty, everywhere. Remember that this is what they did. Everywhere that they came. Now, I'm gonna show you the network and the tentacles of the Roman Catholic Church. I really don't like talking religion, but I'm gonna do this right now since we're in this conversation. The tentacles of the Roman Catholic Church, wherever they come, wherever they set up a see, which is a holy place that the Catholic Church. So that means they controlling land mass. Just like when they come in, these people always came in to build forts. Once they build forts, they sent for troops. So they come in as friends, and then they build themselves up, and the next thing you know, they rolling on it. So this is how this works. This is how they went. They went all around the world doing that same formula. They went into China. They went to China and stepped it there. China is one of the few countries they weren't able to colonialize them. That's why they don't allow religion in there. See, whenever they come with this religion, man, that's it. Religion, Marxism, fascism, racism. They come with these isms. See, this is the plague of the world. They come with these isms because see, these are degenerative minds. I usually keep this stuff to myself. They always brag about being inbred. There's nothing good about being inbred. I breed dogs. When you breed inbred, you're subject to get all the faults, all the defects, genetically defects into that being that you're breeding. So if you're messing with your cousins, that's why certain races of people have so many mental deformities like retardation and Down syndrome, because they messing around with old people. I'm not even going to go to a bunch of stuff I know. It's just...
Brother Bragg, can I speak to that for 1 second, brother? Because you just said something so real. I don't think the people get it. But if you go to the website Real History WW and you put in Google Real History WW, the real history of white people, and they document that white people did not come into existence until 6,000 years ago. And how they came into existence was by Dravidians, which were black Indians. The original Indians migrated to India from Ethiopia. Sanskrit is the language that's an offshoot of the Ethiopian language Ge'ez. It's the same language. And those people, the Dravidians, practice incest. And when they practice incest, that's what created the mutation to albinism and created white people. And they have photographs of white Indians that have blonde hair, blue eyes, red hair, green eyes, and they're right next to their pitch black Indian relatives. And then they also discovered the fact that when you see albino gorillas, as far as mountain gorillas, they were also created from a mutation to albinism from inbreeding. And what happened with that was that in the Congo, King Leopold had killed off so many gorilla families that their gene pool was shrunk, and they were forced to mate with each other. And that's where you saw the first instances of white gorillas. So that exactly what he said is a scientific genetic fact. And on that site, they take you through the genetics, they take you through the history, they take you through photographs, and they take you through the written records of the fact that these white people did not exist until those Dravidians, and I don't know what the circumstances were that caused them to inbreed, but they inbred, and from that inbreeding created a mutation to albinism. Racism, white supremacy is a functional mental illness that is an offshoot of inbreeding. It is composed of, in my opinion, narcissism, psychopathy, and sociopathy. And when you put those three together under an umbrella of the understanding of genetic annihilation, you get racism, white supremacy. So they are functionally mentally ill. And like Dr. Wilson said, the only way for white people to exist physically is to continue to inbreed, to practice inbreeding. Because if everybody got along, then once you get along, you're going to have procreation. And when a white person has sex with a non-white person, the result is a non-white child. And every white person she asked said that they do not want their descendants to be non-white. And she then said that means that they have to remain an inbred race and practice racism, white supremacy in order to exist. That is the linchpin in understanding why we have not changed anything in well over 500 years and in actuality over 2,000 years.
Brother Ross, we got to get ready to wrap it up. Appreciate your commentary, but we got one more call. I want to give them an opportunity to chime in before we wrap it up. 215, you're on Thando Radio Show. Go ahead with your question or comment.
Yes, can I be heard?
Yes.
Yes, hi. Good afternoon, Brother Bragg. I appreciate a heavy show. I just want to say thank you. A few weeks ago, you actually dropped a little gem on Thando, and I believe the name of it was Secret Weapons for a Quiet War. Again, if you haven't seen that, feel free to YouTube that. Some heavy stuff. I know the topic of today was, like standing your ground and whatnot, but I did have a quick question. As it pertains to religion, could you recommend any book, like, let's say, as Brother Scotty always said, it's hard to criticize others' knowledge or lack thereof because we all, come into our own consciousness at our own pace.
Yes,
I'm still coming into mine, and I was wondering if there are any books you could recommend as it pertains specifically to Christianity and how it may have affected us as Black people once we adopted the Christian language. I
got a couple of them. Look, go to that site I told you, 432 The Drop. They got a PDF library there of killer books. One of the books that I would highly recommend is the Reverend Charles Kopek Jones, Religious Instruction in America. I believe it's like 1768 or something like that. But if you put Reverend Charles Kopek Jones, Religious Instruction in America, it's the whole doctrine. Another book that is real good is you should be able to pull up King Leopold. King Leopold had a religious doctrine also. But the book that's the crusher is Joseph Flavorist, pen name Capornius Fico. That's the man who wrote the Bible. That's the man who wrote the New Testament. Pick his stuff up and it will blow your mind. See, these Romans had a cruel sense of humor. Just like every weekend they got you watching basketball, football, that's the Roman Coliseum. Mm-hmm. The worse things get, the more entertainment they got for you. Now, I just want to say one more thing, and then I'm going to let it go because I want to finish this paragraph because this was my point. Those books, but look, those websites, letustfindthetruth.com, 432thedrop.com, and what was the last one? www.realhistory.com. You go to those three sites, you will see pictures. That realhistory.com, man, whatever you think about ethnic, pull up the name American Indian. They're going to mess you up. Who are the American Indians? Okay, I want to finish this. Reasonably accurate accounts of the natural advantages and resources. This is back from The Secret Destiny of America. Manly P. Hall. I don't know if I said that. The Secret Destiny of America, America's Assignment with Destiny. Okay, reasonably accurate accounts of the natural advantages and resources of the Americas were in time brought back by the explorers and adventurers who had opened the new territories of the West. And only then did the European nations give serious consideration to actual development of newly acquired colonial empires. The French, the Dutch, and the English entered upon programs of establishing permanent settlements along the Atlantic seaboard. The English program was under the direction of a Sir Francis Bacon, and it was his genius that gave purpose to the enterprise. Bacon quickly realized that here in the New World was the proper environment for the accomplishment of his great dream, the establishment of a philosophic empire. It must be remembered that Bacon did not play a long hand. He was the head of a secret society, including in its membership the most brilliant intellectuals of his day. All these men were bound together by a common oath to labor in the cause of world democracy. Bacon's society of unknown philosophers included men of high rank and broad influence. Together with Bacon, they devised the colonialization scheme. Word was passed through secret channels that here in the Western Hemisphere was the promised land of the future. Here, men of right purpose could build a new way of life, free from religious intolerance and political despotism that held Europe in its clutches. The history books tell us that the colonials made a long and dangerous journey in small ships in order to find a place where they could worship God, each according to the dictates of his own conscience. There is, however, much more to the story than our historians have dared to suggest. Among the colonializers were some who belonged to the Order of the Quest, but it was not long before religious strife broke out in the colonies, for men do not change their natures merely by changing their place of habitation. Much of the intolerance in the old world came over to plague the beginnings of the new civilization. It was not easy to preserve high principles and pioneering in a country. A lot had been done before the philosophic empire could emerge out of the simple struggle for existence, and much has yet to be accomplished. And we are still pioneering in the sphere of right thinking and right living. Beacon's secret society was set up in America before the middle of the 17th century. Beacon himself had given up all hope of bringing his dream to fruition in his own country, and he concentrated his attention upon rooting in the New World. He made sure the American colonists were thoroughly indoctrinated with the principles of religious tolerance, political democracy, and social equality. Though carefully appointed representatives, the machine of democracy was set up at least 100 years before the period of the Revolutionary War. Beacon's secret society membership was not limited to England. It was the most powerful in Germany, in France, and in the Netherlands. And the most of the leaders of European thought were involved in the vast pattern of this purpose. The mystic empire of the wise had no national boundaries, and its citizenship was made up of men of good purpose in every land. The alchemists, the Kabbalists, the mystics, the Rosicrucians, and the incisive instrument of Beacon's plan. Representatives of those groups migrated to the colonies at an early date and set up their organizations in suitable places. One example will indicate the trend about 1690 that German pious theologian Madagascar Johannes Kelpius sailed from America with a group of followers, all of whom practiced mystical and esoteric rites. The priests settled in Pennsylvania, and their descendants still flourish in Lancaster County. Kelperius, for some years, lived in Antichronite in a cave located in what is now Fairmount Park, Philadelphia. The priests brought with them the writings of the German mystic Jacob Boehme, books of magic, astronomy, alchemy, and Kabbalah. They had curious manuscripts illuminated with strange designs, and their principal text was called an ABC book for the young students studying in a college of the Holy Ghost. The priest brought the order of the mustard seed and the order of the woman in the wilderness to the New World. Kelpius was a man of feeble health, and after a few years died from the hardship and exposure of his religious austerity. The inner circle of his order was composed entirely of celibates, and as these died, there were none to take their places. And so far as the public knows, his secret society did not survive. Actually, it did continue, but with the changing of times, it returned again to its secret foundations, disappearing entirely from public view. The early years of the 18th century brought with many changes in the social and political life of the American colonists. And I'm gonna close it on that. I just want to do one thing. I don't know if you felt me today, or just vibe with me anyway. It's always about mind elevation. When I say mind elevation, that's with the heart. If you think with your head, you think with your ego. You always will fail. Heart first. Daddy?
All right, Brother Braggs. Thank you for today's.
Yes, thank you, sir, and thank everybody. And I'm gonna say peace,
peace, Brother Braggs. All right, we're gonna go ahead and close out the program. Coming up at 9:00 p.m. Eastern Time, we'll be right back on air with a broadcast of Race Treaty. The topic of tonight's program will be promoting rights from Chicago to the U.S. South. So make sure that you check out our human rights defenders tonight on Race Treaty. Peace and blessings to all.